Fantastic. Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Asea 5, where we meet up every Friday night to bring you interesting people from the world of medicine, the world of sports, teachers, nurses, you name it. And as you know, or if you've been following us, I'm Dr. Maureen Hayes from Galveston, Texas. And the regular crew are Ann and Jim Glenn from San Antonio, Texas. Jim's our money man, and Ann is our personal trainer and nutritional specialist. And of course, we have Dr. Lee Osler, our dentist extraordinaire from Washington,
and
author, probably best-selling by now, author of the amazing book, Redox Matters. If you don't have a copy, you're missing out. Not only is it a fantastic book that explains the science, thank you so much, Jim, but it's got an amazing foreword written too. So check that out. And we're joined tonight.
Who wrote that, Maureen?
Wow.
You did? I did not know that.
Yes, it was like 21 attempts, but finally.
Wow.
So we have brought back a fan favorite, Dr. Carmen Keith. This is our second week of the new year. We kicked off the year last week with Chuck Funky, which was just amazing. We missed Jim and Ann, who were skiing and didn't get killed up in Park City, Utah. But we're bringing Carmen Keith to kind of knock it out of the park this week. We love her story. We love her background. We love her. She's got so much information to share. Triple board certified, Harvard trained, amazing doctor with an incredible story, a personal story, a story about her family that will really touch your heart. Carmen, please come on. There's so many new people on this call who maybe haven't heard this before. If you could take us back, talk a little bit about your background, how you morphed from anesthesia and pain into integrative medicine, how you ended up in Tyler, Texas, what you experienced, what your family experienced, and where you're taking it to from here. So thank you, Carmen. Welcome back.
Hey.
Thanks, you guys. Hi, everybody. Hey. It's so good to be back. It's so good to see you guys. I hope everybody made it through the holidays, and we're glad that 22 is here in all its glory. And so a little bit about me. So my name is Carmen. I joke that my parents didn't name me doctor, but I did earn that. And I was called to be a doctor when I was 7. And from age 7, I just knew that my calling was to help others. And I didn't quite understand what being a doctor meant. I was just 7. There's no other doctors in my family and still aren't. But I figured it out. The Lord gave me great opportunities and I took those, and he blessed me all along the way. I found myself among the best of the best teachers, and I learned so much. And I learned that being part of a team that actually helps others on their healing journey was really later in my career, my true calling was to help people to be well enough so that they can achieve their calling, right? Because if we get distracted by all of this feeling bad and such, then you can't do what you're supposed to do out there in the world that only you and yourself and your soul can achieve. And so I started on my journey. Was it easy? Absolutely not, but nothing worth having is easy, right? But was it worth it every single day? Yes, it is. I became anesthesiologist, also boarded in pain. I did my pain training up at Mass General at Harvard. And then our career jumped off. My husband's from Mississippi. Hello, all you Mississippians. He's from Tupelo, actually. And so that's where we began. And from that, I learned that really quickly, I didn't know it all. And I love doctors, but sometimes our ego gets in our way and we think that we do. And so humbly, I had to say, I need to be a lifelong learner. And that's part of being a physician, and physician means to teach, really. And I realized that I learned a whole lot more from my patients on some days about their bodies and how they understood their inner workings to be, and just taking a moment to listen to patients, to listen to their wisdom that they had to offer me as their physicians so that I could help them went a long way and really makes me unique. I listen. I love to listen to patients and to try to figure things out together. And so I would pick up these nuggets along the way, and I started running into a lot of patients who liked to do things the more natural way, if you will. They started bringing in supplements, and I had to start learning, how did those play a role in pain? How did that play a role or interact with maybe some other pharmaceuticals? Because yes, herbs and supplements can react with pharmaceuticals just like anything else. And then I had a little personal health struggle. I have twins. They are actually about to be 11 next week. But with that came some health challenges. And I recognized that when they were almost 2. And I decided that I really didn't want to do the traditional thing. I didn't want to do those things. And a book hit my life. A nurse actually just on a whim was like, hey, have you ever read this book? And the name of the book is called Wheat Belly. I always get asked, so I'll just go ahead and say it now. It's called Wheat Belly. It's written by an interventional cardiologist. It taught me the role of food in your body in regards to your health. And I really started reading that in fear, just to be quite honest, because this was totally different than what I had ever been taught. You see, in medical school, we don't get teaching on nutrition or nutraceuticals at all, but nutrition, maybe an hour I got. I mean, literally not much. I was taught that vitamins were alphabet soup, and that was it. And as long as you're an American, you have all that you need at your fingertips in the world of food, and there's no way that you have any nutritional gaps. Literally, right? And so how's that working for us? And so I had to take it upon myself to start learning and to continue that. And so I read this book literally in my closet with a blanket over my head. It was my daughter's little pink Minnie Mouse blanket, because I thought lightning was going to strike. I thought I was going to be, labeled, and because this just wasn't what we were taught. And so I decided to pull my bootstraps up, turn directly to the back of the book where all the recipes were. And I was like, you know what? If this can help me help myself so that I'm around for my kids and my grandkids and all of that, and maybe help some patients along the way, then that's what I'm going to do. So I committed to the book for a month. I said, I'm going to read this book in a month. I'm just going to do what it says in the back of the book, just like a student does. You just follow the teacher's instructions, no judgment. And lo and behold, things started to get better. Absolutely, hands down, things started to get better. In the process, things started to disappear from my kitchen. My kids, my husband started asking where those things went. I just don't know. And they never returned. Still to this day, they've never returned. And so it just was a process of me changing, my health improving. And I got introduced to functional medicine on a walk, and I clicked on a little ad and it said, do you have a functional medicine doctor? And I thought, what is that? So I started reading about it, and then I started understanding that there are ways to reach the root cause of things. Now that sounds easier said than done sometimes. And sometimes, we never get to the bottom of why somebody feels bad, but we sure keep searching. But I started taking these classes on my vacation time. I would just go and do a course. That was back in the day when we would go to live courses, and there was no such thing as these video courses. My, how much money I spent on traveling during those days. All of us, right? And so I started gathering those tools, and then one course led to another. I reached toward the middle, and I thought maybe this is something that I need to add to my repertoire to be able to help more people, because I got a lot of years of practice ahead of me. And if this could help just a few, I think this would be a win. So I went ahead and got certified and boarded, and that's how I ended up with my functional medicine. Decided that for me to be the best pain doctor of the future, I really need to dive into this and to learn more, to put it in action, to help others. And that's what I've been doing for the past about 5 years now. And oh, hi, Teresa. And that's what I've been doing. And it's been very challenging, but yet very rewarding. This is not the easy route. This is not straightforward at all times. This is definitely the road less traveled. But it's been very, very, very rewarding.
Wonderful.
Yeah, we're trying to unmute.
Yeah,
I forgot how to do the unmute button.
Didn't want to interrupt. Wonderful.
Oh, wow.
Can
A much better approach.
you share how you got introduced into Redox?
Yes, I certainly will. So I had a colleague, her name is Dr. Ann Ools, and she brought the gel actually to me in my office. She had the little tube and she said, Carmen, you need to look at this. It's helped me in my discomfort. It's been really amazing. I would really want you to look at it because you're a pain doctor. And I'll be honest, I did my research. And while I was doing my research, what I now know ghosted her. I didn't do it necessarily on purpose, but I was just trying to just get all of my stuff together and have time to read and to look at the videos. And there was just one weekend I remember where it was just, okay, I'm digging my heels in, shut the doors, don't bother me, I'm learning. And just one video led to another, led to another, led to another. I've probably watched everything, almost all of them on YouTube. While I was trying to put this together and trying to wrap my brain around it. And then there became a moment where, after watching some of Tyler's videos, where I just became really comfortable with the mission, the ethos of the company. That was the video that really sealed it for me. Honestly. It was, these are good people doing the right thing for humanity. And they have a huge mission. And I could see their hearts. I could hear the hearts. I could feel them. Every video was very consistent in that regard. Regarding the science, I dug in. I already knew about redox. Redox is just a basic biochemistry, topic that we all learn along the way. But what was super intriguing was that it was now possible to do this outside the body, exogenously, and in a bottle. And then learning the history of Asea really said, you know what, I've gathered enough that I know that it could help me. And if it could help me, it could help others. And so there was a bit of pride I had to lay aside, just like anybody watching this, you have to lay a little bit of pride aside, sometimes a lot of it, to go, yep, let me try it. So I started trying it, and it didn't hurt me. And I started feeling better. And I started, because, my brain is, all of us really, we make money with our brains, right? And so my sharpness came higher, my sleep got better. And I started just overall feeling more awake and not necessarily having that afternoon slump. In the first probably couple weeks, I felt
how long ago was that, and how much did you start drinking or applying the gel?
Yep, I think that was around. It had to have been. Let me think here. I've got another story to tell, Jim. So I'm calculating.
I know, got to get all the dates right.
Yeah, it must have been March, probably March of 2019.
Okay.
March, April, somewhere in there.
Okay.
2019. And so I started at the 2 ounces twice a day. Of course, okay. I'm not going to go lower. I'm going to do what the bottle says. And I started 2 ounces twice a day. And that's what I did. And then I started feeling better. I gave some to my mother. She started feeling better. This was kind of overlapping really when my dad had started becoming ill, but that's where we started. And she started feeling better as well. And I'll save my dad's story for later.
Okay.
Yeah. That's awesome.
So a lot of people are new. They may be watching this that are new. They don't know what Redox is. When I look at the bottle, Carmen, and it says it's a dietary supplement made from salt water, it's kind of a head scratcher. We did multiple meetings in the last couple of days, and I'll be frank with you. When I first heard about this, it sounds crazy. It sounds like if there's anything out there like snake oil, this is it. So how did you wrap your brain around that?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And I understood that there's a process of which everything can start out as one thing, but it turns into something else. And
Okay.
so at its simplest, I talk to patients when I speak to them. So if you might be my patient, Jim, can we role play a little bit here?
Absolutely.
Okay. Jim, it's so good to see you again. We've gone over a bit of your labs now today, and I've identified several things that we need to address and some gaps that we need to start filling. I try to use as few supplements as possible, and I'm going to grab one that really can check a lot of boxes for you. Okay, I'm going to be right back. So I go get the bottle and I come back. And I say, I call this the big blue bottle, but it's called Asea. And what I want you to understand, first thing is I want you to turn it around and read me those ingredients. We just go ahead and get this out of the way. And
Okay.
they'll say salt and water. And then they look up. And I'm like, yeah. And it's made in Salt Lake City. So, haha. All right. So what is it? So this is redox biochemistry, reduction oxidation. It's a basic concept in biochemistry. You can read about it all day long in as many publications as your little heart desires on Google Scholar, PubMed, etc. But what I want you to understand is how this works for you. You see, even though it starts as salt and water, it ends up redox molecules by the patented processes that Asea has. This is a little bit similar to that. I don't know. We just had the holidays. I'm sure somebody brought a cake to the party. And on the label, it says chocolate cake, right? But on the ingredients list, it is this long. And last I knew, we really shouldn't eat things we can't pronounce. But I bet you had that chocolate cake. So we can pronounce salt and sodium and water. And there's no fillers, there's no dyes, there's no anything in that. But for some reason, when we know we should eat simple and we should not put anything into our body that we can't pronounce, we suddenly become suspicious.
Mhm.
Right? And
Yeah.
so after being at the company and being in the in the lab and asking questions and seeing it all, physics is a very complicated thing, just like the physics of making a cake and putting it in the oven. That's all it is. It's these ingredients, chemistry and physics working together to create something different. And that's what we have here. The difference here is going to be the power of what is in here. And what is in here is a replica of what your cells already create to help you live every single day. As we are younger, our cells can make more of this. And as we become older, our 50 to 70 trillion cells just can't keep up, for lack of a better kind of word. And so what this does is it allows your body to do what it naturally should do. It should tick along. It should help the body understand, cell communication. If we don't communicate, we don't usually have good relationships in our homes, with our friends and family. Okay. And the same thing is in the body. The thing is, though, you usually don't notice until a whole organ system or a whole organ might have a problem. Okay. And by then you have symptoms and you go, oh, something's wrong. But the truth is, something has been wrong for a while. You just haven't had enough cells that got the signal to you to say something's wrong. And let's just face it, some of us takes a little longer to get the point across, right? Even though the body's screaming help. And so what is in this bottle? It says a supplement, but that's really too light of a word, in my opinion. I actually call it a bioreplenisher, okay? Because this is going to help replenish what your body naturally needs anyway, okay? This is not a supplement as you might think about it, but this helps some of those supplements you take to do a better job at what you think that they're supposed to be doing. So if this is the construction foreman and those things are the materials that build the house, that's kind of the analogy we're talking about here. All right. This is not a oil. It's not a vitamin. It's literally a bioreplenisher. Okay. And so what I want you to do is take this 2 ounces twice a day. For some patients, I increase it, depends on what we're working on. For some, I start them very, very low, depends on what we're working on. Okay. There's nothing wrong with starting a little bit. Make sure you can tolerate it and then moving up. But just like any other drug that you may take, you may experience side effects before you start feeling better. Same thing with supplements, same thing for changing diet, same thing for this. And so just be, aware that once you start it, Jim, you might feel a little worse before you feel better, right? But what I want us to understand is that, I promise you're going to get addicted to feeling good. And once you start feeling good, unless we have kind of a record of where you started from, which is for me, the medical record, but for everyone out there, it's that symptom sheet, the checker. Okay. You need to have a picture from where you came, because the brain will forget. The brain will forget quickly from where it came. I know we all say, well, I'm never going to forget this, but some of those details you really do. And the brain also, you've lived with those things for years and years and years and years and years and years and years, right? It takes sometimes a little bit of time for these things to show some improvement. So I want to set up proper expectations. If you've been dealing with something for a few decades, don't expect one blue bottle to really turn this thing around, right? It might take some time. And we're hopeful that you'll get some improvement, but there's no guarantees and there's no promises that you're going to get 100% improvement. I just want you to understand that this has the power because of how the body works and how it works to help some of your issues. But we check in regularly. But I want to make sure that we set proper expectations. Absolutely, because my favorite saying, expectations are planned resentments, right? And if we're not very, very just open and honest about it, then it's easy for some people to think that it just won't work for them. I've seen it work for way, way more people than I've seen it not work.
Now, can I touch on that real quick? Is it has to work? They just may not feel it, right?
Right. And so this goes to the cellular level. Just as you didn't feel yourself getting sick, suddenly when you got the symptom, it works in the reverse way too. As the body is healing itself, it does take time. And again, you might feel worse before you feel better, but it's getting through that. And, I've often used the analogy of sweeping out the garage. Depending on how wide of a broom you use is the dose of Asea. Okay. And when you brush that floor, the dust is going to fly. Well, this is the process of the body kind of going, okay, boys, we got to do something in town here. But over time, as it settles, that's where we come above the fog, if you will, and really start assessing. But just because you may start feeling some less than pleasant symptoms, and not everybody does not mean that it's not working, does not mean that won't go away.
Awesome. Now, for your mom, what did she say it tasted like? I mean, did it taste salty? Did it taste like pool water? What did she like? Oh, what are you doing?
Icky pool water.
Yeah, that's about it. Yeah, icky pool water. So for those new out there, I call it the litmus test. I just say, hey, there's a litmus test with this. How's it going to taste is always one of the first questions that's asked. And if it tastes a little bit more like bleach or you know, pool water, then you're a little more toxic than maybe you should. And if hi Shirley, and if it tastes like a little bit more like not salt, we don't want it to taste like salt, but a little more neutral, then you're a little less toxic. If it tastes like salt, then it's denatured. So we do know that exposure to metals for long periods of time, more than 15 minutes, correct me if I'm wrong, Lee, can denature it back into the original salt and water. So if it really does taste like salt water to you, then you left that out too long. And it actually does work. Of course, I've done that experiment in my house on my couch. Yes.
Hey, Carmen, let me ask you a question real quick. We have a lot of practitioners who use this, and one of the things I hear quite often is that they're worried or they're fearful about how much time it's going to take to educate their patients about this product and how, you know, how to use it, what it's going to do. It literally took you maybe 5 minutes to take your patient Jim through it. So do you give them, what else do you give them to support them in their education? I know you say go to Google Scholar, go to PubMed, which is great. Do you give them a website or the gene study or anything else like that?
I introduced them to the gene study and we read the back of the bottle together. So I didn't get to that, but I do tell them we do know that genes are amplified that affect these things. And I actually turned the bottle around and I asked Jim to read it. So Jim, go ahead and read those points on the back of the bottle.
Yes, ma'am. I don't know if we have the new bottle. There may be more.
Number 6 is on there.
Okay, it improves immune system health. It helps maintain a healthy inflammatory response due to physical exercise. And it supports the body's ability to respond to external stressors, which being around Maureen is very stressful. Sorry, Maureen. And she's not drinking wine tonight, guys. So I just want to just put that out there.
You literally bottle shamed me. I had to get a glass.
It's very stressful working with Maureen, but we have a blast. Helps maintain cardiovascular health and support arterial elasticity. That sounds important. It improves gut health and digestive enzyme production. And last, it modulates hormonal balance to support vitality and wellness. Wow, that's a lot, Doc.
And how many of those did we talk about in your visit today that are affecting you?
Quite a few. Yeah.
Yeah. So I would defer to Dr. Lee to explain the gene study.
Well, and I want Lee real quick to give the disclaimer that Maureen, or did you already do that?
No, she didn't.
Nope, I didn't do it.
She's slipping. I don't know.
She was ready.
We have to have a talk, Maureen.
I know.
Good gosh, is that a big enough glass of water?
That's a jar.
Holy mackerel, Carmen.
That's my leader. That's my baby. Half
You know,
your weight in ounces.
You're going to be up all night going
every
bathroom.
I know. I'm trying to keep up with Russell Mariani. What is it, a half an ounce? And yet if I drink out of this, I get, they're hateful. They're hateful, Carmen. So go ahead.
Well, the important part that we're getting to here is that this is not a treatment for a disease. We're not naming diseases. This is not a diagnosis. We're talking about cellular health. And, as Dr. Carmen was going through her description of this, she's really illustrating the deficiencies that are existing in cells that we all have. These reduction oxidation molecules, they're native to our body. They're produced by our mitochondria, and they're used by the body to activate these genes. And so a few years ago, a prestigious genetic research laboratory was asked to conduct a gene study on a group of 35-year-old otherwise healthy people. And so we weren't picking on 80-year-old infirm, people with full of comorbidities and diseases already. These were relatively healthy people, and they were using 8 ounces a day. They went 8 weeks, and then they did their genetic study and did the blood work. And they found from a 20 to 31% improvement in positive or healthy pathway gene activation that revolved around those areas that Jim read off the back of the bottle. And that's what allowed the FDA to approve the actual printing of those on the bottle. That's a pretty, bold move that allows a supplement company operating under the supplement rules of the country to be able to make those kind of claims on a supplement. And say, well, that's 20 to 31%. Well, that's very, very significant. We've got some esteemed researchers, pharmacological researchers in our company who talk about the very marginal percentage of improvement of some medications that are used for some diseases. And they're just fractions of a percent, on the whole. And here we've got up to 30% improvement in gene pathway gene activation. So what does that mean? What that means is that for us to have cellular defenses show up to deal with the stresses and the strains and the deficiencies and the dysfunctions that are in our cells, our DNA has to somehow know that it has to do something. And that's called gene activation or gene expression. This all revolves around the idea of how does your body know it's in trouble? I'll show up at Dr. Keith's office one day and complain about something because I have a symptom, or she'll notice some lab work where there's a sign or something like that, and that might demonstrate it. But at the cellular level, the body is recognizing problems and has to do something about it. And that's this gene study, the activation of genes in response to these conditions. And that's really a significant finding. In fact, they stopped the study and they went 8 weeks later and found out that all of the study participants had reverted to their baseline, which means that confirmed that this effect that we're having is a lifestyle effect. You have to incorporate this into your lifestyle through healthy living or through redox replenishment in order to enjoy the benefits of that gene activation. So that's probably the most succinct way I can say it, but that defines why people like Dr. Keith is looking at their patients and they're saying, we need to do something more, and here's something that works.
Okay, Maureen, why isn't this an FDA? If it's so wonderful, but does all these amazing things, why is it not under the auspices of the FDA? And I do want to point out that not every country has those listings on the back of the bottle. So that's up to each individual country as to what they can put. But it is the exact same material all over the world, but just some countries don't allow that. But Maureen, real quick, why not an FDA drug? Then I want to ask the big elephant in the room question after that to all three of you.
Sure. That was my big hang up when my husband and I were first looking at it. We're both physicians. My husband's a researcher. And we're used
extraordinaire. Researcher extraordinaire from Harvard.
He's from Harvard too. So I didn't go to Harvard, but I married Harvard. So it's almost
right.
So there you go, by osmosis. But yeah, we were a little hung up on that. And it's amazing. We had the opportunity and let me clarify. And Carmen can back me up. As pain doctors, we use things off label all the time. Every doctor does. So we have in our quiver of things that we're using for pain, we're using antidepressants, we're using anti-seizure medication, all sorts of different things. Some of them we didn't actually even know exactly how they worked. We just knew that they did work. It was almost like a side effect that we would see. And so we would use it. So we're used to using things off label, but we really do like that label as physicians. And so early on, we've been a part of this company for 9 years. I had the opportunity to speak with Vertus Norton, our founder. And I said to him, my husband and I were kind of meeting with our arms crossed against our chests, And I said, why is this not FDA approved? And he said, well, that's a good question. He said, but it probably could be FDA approved, but it would probably take another 10 years and that many more millions of dollars to do it. And he said, we already have studies on it. We already know how powerful it is. We know that it's non-toxic, and we've seen what it does for people. So we decided to bring it to the market and let the people have it and let the science catch up with us, which is actually what's happening now. As you know, there's 10 studies going on right now. We have collaborations with different universities all over the world. And the original company that developed the technology was trying to get FDA approval as a new drug, but they couldn't establish what is called an LD50, which is sort of archaic, but still considered the gold standard, which is when you give half of the animals that you give the product to perish. Well, the more they gave the animals, the better they seemed to do. And so the FDA investigators at that time said, you know what? This is not a drug. At most, at best, it's a supplement. And unfortunately for that company, they lost their investors because there's a lot more money in pharmaceuticals than there are in supplements. And so what happened with that company is the mother company was selling off assets, kind of like a fire sale. And Vertus, our founder, was on the board and actually bought the rights to the technology, took it to Dr. Gary Samuelson and a team of scientists. Dr. Gary Samuelson is a medical atomic physicist who was able to stabilize it. If you haven't seen the video, The Genesis, please take the time to watch it. You will see the heart and soul of our company, get a little bit more of the background story, and find out, how this came about, which is really miraculous in and of itself. So that's where we are with the FDA.
And the video, by the way, is in amazingmolecules.com. It's the second video down if you're on a computer. It's called the Genesis video. It's a 16-minute video. Okay, the elephant in the room. Carmen, network marketing. How did you wrap your brain around that?
Yeah, it was pretty simple for me. Understanding that Mr. Vertus Norton is a Fortune 50 and his extreme success as a strategist, I realized that he knows a lot more about business than I ever will. And if he decided that this is how it should go, then that's fine. I just need to be able to get it to people.
Wow. That was one of the best explanations I've ever heard. Lee, what about you, Mr. Chicken Bone?
Well, I have the worst explanation.
And then we do want to say, I do want to have enough time, Carmen, for Daddy's story. So go ahead, Lee. How did you get around that? Network marketing.
Yeah, when I first heard about this, it was from my wife's physician who suggested it. And he didn't tell us anything about it. He just says, go Google it and get some. And I said, what is that? And he goes, just go online and find it. He wasn't involved at the time. He just heard about it. And so I look back at that experience and I realized that was a little bit weird, but so I found it. I knew nothing about it and we ordered it and it had a profound effect for my wife. And so that's what opened my eyes. And then it was like, oh, please tell me that's not one of those. It was like the chicken bone in my throat. I grew up in an environment and a culture where it wasn't esteemed highly. And so I had to get around that. The Genesis video, understanding where this came from in this particular instance, that this was legitimate. I spent, a couple of years doing my own personal research. It turned into the book we mentioned earlier, the Redox Matters book, that tried to legitimize that this has a scientific basis and a sounding. And then the business model of it is like, what Dr. Marine was saying was, isn't it great? I mean, this is where I'm at now. Isn't it great that it is network marketing? Because this requires telling a story. People don't just take a big blue bottle and say, I'm going to spend the money to do this for no reason. They have to understand what this is about. And the platform of network marketing gives us the opportunity to share our story, to create that curiosity, and the science is there. I mean, I've proved that it's there. And it wasn't that I needed to prove it. That was more for me, but it's there. And for my story, it's about working around all that baggage that you just have to work through to get to the point where you can freely share this and realize that if it weren't for that, nobody here would be on the call. That this would be a zero, for all of us.
Exactly.
And Carmen, where would your father be if your friend did not share this with you?
He would not be of this earth. I'll say that. So In February of 2019, my dad fell ill. It was February the 20th, in fact. And I got the phone call that nobody ever wants to get. My husband called me at work and said, your dad's really sick. Can you come home? So I came home, found him in distress. We chatted a bit, had to get him to the hospital immediately. This began a almost 6-month in and out of the hospital, multiple brushes with death, and multiple times of the doctor saying, this is it. This is it. And so this was back, of course, during the days that we could be with our loved ones in the hospital for extended periods of time. One day, my mom called and said, hey, doc's giving him 10% chance of living. And what are you thinking? What can we do? Now, that's a heavy question. And I say this like just, but in the moment, it was heart-wrenching because I am two people in that moment. I am a daughter and I am a doctor. And my mom was asking the doctor. And so I sometimes have to, in my life, pick roles, which role. And in this moment, I had to respond as doctor. Otherwise, my daughter was going to just have a meltdown and crawl off into the corner and not know what to do. But the doctor keeps the daughter strong in this moment. And she says, well, Mom, I mean, I've got the blue bottle and so do you. How have you been feeling? And she was like, great. And I said, I know you have been. You haven't told me, but I can hear it in your voice. And she was just very sharp. She would call me with the doctor's reports with detail. I mean, I was like, gosh, Nurse Mary, that's amazing. And so I said, well, Mom, that's what I've got. And that's what you have to decide. You have to make the decision now. And so this is doctor counseling, you know, you have to make the decision now if you want to try this, because what do you have to lose? And I was very frank. I was like, you know, at this point, Mom, your discharge plan for Dad, and I'm sorry, but this is going to be very frank, is either going to be to home or to a funeral home. Okay. So that's where we're at. Leaving this hospital will be those two options. So can you live the rest of your days on the earth if you don't choose it? Or can you live with yourself for the rest of your days on the earth saying, at least you tried?
Right.
And that's only a decision that you can make, Mom. Right? So she decided to do it. And because it looks like water, she was able to take it in the hospital with no problems. At the time, my dad he had a feeding tube in his nose. He had just gotten out of the ICU. It was about a 2-week stint then. And he didn't know where he was, who we were, nothing, just out of his mind. And because Asea is absorbed in the mouth, she was able to put it on a sponge and swish it around in his mouth. And those of you who are new, that's important. It's absorbed in the mouth and the esophagus. You must swish it 15 to 30 seconds before you swallow it. Okay. So a week goes by. My dad got out his feeding tube came out, and he started being fed full food through the days that he advanced his diet. In about the 7th to 9th day, he ate 3 full meals. That is unheard of with what he had. And the residents would come in like every 5 minutes and ask, Mom, are you sure he didn't vomit? Are you sure he didn't get sick? And, you know, Mom called like, why are these kids coming and asking me this? And I was like, because he should have, Mom, because he should have. Now recognize that my dad's case is a very extreme and different case, not only in degree of illness that he was at, but also in the speed of improvement that he had.
Right.
So these results are definitely not typical. Okay. And so we move on. Another week passes, and lo and behold, we're about to qualify to now. The discharge plan was either to go to inpatient rehab or a nursing home. Wow, how far we've come. Okay. Mom's like, what do I do? I'm like, keep giving him. Only my mother knows, and she doesn't even know how much she was pouring in the man. We were giving it by liquid. We were doing the gel all up and down his spine, everywhere, because we needed him. We wanted him to walk. And so we were just doing anything. It wasn't hurting. And so it came time to qualify. He had a physical therapist that he became friends with in and out. He just was there for so long. And she came in and was like, all right, Mr. Golden, it's time for you to qualify for inpatient rehab. He had already qualified for, of course, the nursing facility. But she said, you got to walk 200 feet unassisted. Gets out there in the hall, and the man walks 250 feet unassisted. That was in June. He had not done that since before he was sick in February. Wow. And he had been doing this for let's give it generous, 3 weeks, guys. That's it. He gets to go to rehab. He walks out of that place and home on July the 3rd. I hope you guys have his interview saved, and they can go.
Yeah, I'm just going to offer that I will repost that in Asea United. It will be a Vimeo link, so you can send that outside of Asea United.
And just to hear him, I can tear up in a second thinking about that talk we had with him, but he will tell you he remembers nothing about his stay, and that's a blessing. I believe right now, we all believe. But he continues to take it. We will not be without our Asea. There are many things that I would give up before I gave up Asea.
So his maintenance dose now, or his ideal?
8 ounces. He does 8 ounces a day.
Great. That's awesome.
Now, when I made the statement, all three of you, that Redox works 100% of the time, but I'm not saying it's going to fix everything right now, right? It's working on something, you don't know what. And like Alan Noble shares, I've been on it for 13 years and I haven't felt anything, and I don't need to. Can you go over that? Because we're also now talking about it. We have one body, if I'm not mistaken. We only get one shot at this. Are you being proactive? Can we say that? Or is it, are you taking care of your body the best that you possibly can? And that is assisting in that.
Yeah, I would definitely understand that. How do you feel individual 50 trillion cells? You can't. And why wait for a symptom? Right? The symptom is equivalent to the tip of the iceberg, but what really lies beneath is 90% of the whole iceberg, right?
Yeah. And
so I definitely believe being proactive, because you'll never understand, what are you preventing? Who wants to do that study? Okay, I'm going to take you and I'm going to give you this thing that might prevent illness for you. And you guys, you just go ahead and do your thing. Like, you can't do a study like that. And you'll never know what it can prevent. And so once again, it's a small price to pay. We talk about this before, the trajectory in my life where Asea hit, that was no accident. And that was perfection to the second. And so the question is, what's really the true cost of not doing whatever it is in your life that you want to do? I don't care if it's losing weight. I don't care if it's reading that book over on the counter. I don't care if it's taking the new job, or if it's Asea. What is the cost that you're willing to take to not do it? Yeah. And it's not about you. It's about everybody that you can help. That blue bottle came into my life. It helped me sleep and it helped my brain work. Really? In comparison to literally what I just told you with my dad, that my dad would not have had access to had I not just put my pride aside and said, I'll drink it. Right? Mm-hmm. it's not about you. With all love, it's not. It's about those who you influence, who you can help.
Exactly.
Yep.
And it's a lot
Carmen,
cheaper. Go ahead.
Just going to quick, you made a comment earlier about that expectations were planned resentments. And I thought, we have this idea that when I do this, when I take that, I expect a certain result. And the problem here is that we're talking about two different health models. Drugs, as both of you know very well, drugs are working on receptor sites. And if I take a pain medicine and it's not working in 30 minutes, then I'm back at you saying it's not working. I expect to feel differently or not have pain because of that intervention. And that's not the way lifestyle works. That's not the way prevention and nutrition work. That's not the way signaling works. All we're doing is creating a mild stimulus in the body so that the body can adapt and respond in an appropriate way, the way it was designed to. And so, this whole idea that Jim was kind of throwing this, it's the other 900-pound gorilla in the room, that this is going to solve all my problems. And when it doesn't make me feel better by Friday, well, then I'm bagging this. And it's like, no, this takes time. You've got a lot of layers to this onion that you've created, and you're going to have to peel through them, and you're going to detox, but it's going to take a long time for your cells to get back up and running.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
I was just going to
What,
say,
Maureen?
she
It's
said,
not
right.
named panacea.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like vitamin D. We hear a lot about vitamin D levels right now because they're finding such a correlation between people's health and people's ability to avoid or overcome the virus that's coming about everywhere. You don't feel your vitamin D level. You don't know it. You don't take vitamin D and all of a sudden you're shooting sunshine out your pores, right? But if you don't have it, it can cause problems. So it is a paradigm shift in your health, in, taking something that's filling up a void or a deficiency or an imbalance so that your body works better. That's all we're doing here. We're not curing, preventing, treating. Weren't you supposed to give this, Lee? We're not here to prevent, treat, cure, diagnose anything. We're just giving your body a bioreplenishment agent that helps your cells do their job more efficiently and effectively.
And it's so much cheaper to be on Asea than it is to go the route of, like Jim did, lots of back surgeries, lots of medication, lots of side effects. People just have to be willing to try it. 90% see a change in 90 days. You got to give time for the body to regenerate the 75 plus trillion cells that are inside us. And the redox signaling is going to work better, or you'll see a better journey if you would drink enough regular water every day, be on as clean a diet as you can, and put in some activity. Remember, Dr. Ward would always say those three things are what make the redox work even better, by doing just your basic healthy choices. You can say something.
As an ex-financial advisor, I used to help people save money, for that supposed glorious day of retirement, which I personally don't believe in. But I would see people save and save and save, and then guess what happened to the money? It had to get used when there was an illness or there was an accident or someone within the family. And all we're talking about is, are you willing to invest in you? I did a lot of people that would dollar cost average on a monthly basis into an investment program. And we're just talking, and I did a lot of insurance. I did a lot of long-term care and disability and life insurance and things of that nature. And by it's not life insurance, it's death insurance. You have to die, to collect it. You don't collect it, someone else does. But it's just a theory. But here's the other thing. We're the first to the market. It's a category creator. Carmen, can you real quick talk about that? We got 4 minutes. But it being a category creator that no one knows anything about, you can't find anywhere else. There's nothing else like this. What do you say about that? I mean,
yeah. So that's very important, because if you recognize how long it takes something in medicine to actually come to the market. It's a generation of time or even more, 30 years in a lot of instances for anything to come to the medicine market. And so for this being new in its category and so accessible now worldwide, even through this MLM, it's the best thing to get it worldwide with voices and hearts that can really pass it and improve humanity. So a category creator, right place, right time.
Exactly.
But it sounds crazy. And we're just, and the other side of the coin, people, and as an ex-broker, is the potential business. Not everybody may want to do that, but I will say, Maureen, you kind of like that model, don't you?
Hey, I love it. When I first looked at network marketing, gosh, over 20 years ago, it was because I was seriously trying to find a way to earn my life back. I had looked at regular business models. I'd looked at going to Harvard Business School, different things that I thought, I have to find something. I love being a doctor. Don't get me wrong. What I didn't love was sacrificing my own life to take care of everybody else. I had a husband, I had a child, and I really wanted to participate in those things. I think, Carmen, you probably know exactly what I'm talking about. And, when you're working from dawn till the middle of the night and on call all the time, it's a really hard life. And so really for me, network marketing is what has allowed me to take care of people. I don't practice medicine anymore. I do keep all of my licenses up to date just in case I decide on a whim to go back, but I doubt that's going to happen, because this has allowed me to take care of people and to amplify and magnify my influence over people. Because as doctors, we can only take care of the person who's in front of us in our clinic. But with this, because you don't have to be a doctor, I can teach somebody. Jim, we can even teach you. It would be difficult, but maybe you could even learn how to do it. And you can turn around, as you and Ann have, and change the lives, affect the lives of thousands of people all over the world. That is so gratifying to know that everything that we do is helping to improve the lives of others, improve their physical health and their financial health. And it has allowed me to stay home, to do the things. I've had some sick family members I've been able to spend time with, not have to worry about going into the hospital, not worry about having to call in sick. It is such a gift. I absolutely love it. I recommend it. I recommend you try it. You might like it.
And you have a special weekend coming up next weekend.
Yeah, we'll miss you.
I do. I will miss you guys next week because my baby is getting married. I can't believe it. He's 29, so he's not a baby anymore. But anyway, I'm going to have to hand him over to another woman, but it'll be a lot of fun. I'm going to be pretty close to you guys. I'll be in Terry's town,
Awesome.
Dripping Springs.
Yeah, that's great.
I don't think the Aussies aren't coming on, but can you answer real quick why, maybe Lee, why hasn't anybody copied this? Why doesn't anybody else have this? You have to imagine every pharmaceutical company has this in their labs trying to reverse engineer this, back it into, okay, how do you guys do this? But yet no one's come out with this. Why?
Well, Maureen mentioned earlier about the backstory and how once it kind of came into became available, it wasn't going to go down the FDA route, that they brought in a medical atomic physicist. That process created a lot of patents, and that created a lot of private information, that is protected. These are trade secrets. And so, there's patents that secure this, but more importantly, there are trade secrets. Making this stuff, as Carmen mentioned, it takes quite an effort, and it took many, many years and considerable effort for them to dial this in and figure out what it really took to create and stabilize these reactive molecules. The point there is that making redox molecules is not hard. That happens all the time, and there's a lot of people who do that. But stabilizing them and creating them in a form that they can be used as the replenishment that Dr. Carmen was talking about, that was the tricky part. And we're just so far ahead of it now. There may be somebody that will come 10, 20, 50 years down the road and think I have a version of it, but this is well protected, it's well researched, I have no concern or qualms about that. And so if there's anybody that's worried about that, I think it's a misplaced worry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, guys, real quick, how big is this going to be, Maureen, Carmen, and then Lee? How big is this? I mean, honestly, can you compare it to anything else?
Not really. As a physician, especially a pain physician, having written hundreds, if not thousands of prescriptions over the years, all with side effects and warnings, to have something this powerful that affects every cell in your body, and yet it's 100% non-toxic, it just seems like a gift from God. There were people in the chat saying, well, why doesn't it fix everything? And, I would say have some patience. You
Right.
never know what's being worked on, right? And hopefully we may never know what's being prevented, but it's huge. And, it encompasses 3 different markets, billion-dollar markets, including health and wellness, athletic performance, and age, beauty and anti-aging. Huge.
Yeah.
And we're just scratching the surface.
I know.
Pretty amazing.
Carmen, how big is this?
I'd say it's as big as the humans who have the heart for Asea want it to be. We are the rate limiting step, and don't let your pride get in the way of potentially helping someone behind you that you don't even know about yet.
Yeah.
Wow.
Exactly.
Lee?
If somebody came along and told you that they had the key to the fountain of youth, the fountain of health, that was a big deal in our history. The explorers that were tromping through Florida trying to find that fountain, that's been etched into our psyche, that if there was just something that could do the real thing, be the real fountain of youth, this is as close as you can get, because it's about gene expression. This is turning on and off genes. It's going to be big on the pharmaceutical side, I think, in the next 20 to 50 years, but we have access to that technology right now.
It's awesome.
Next week we've got Dr. David Silverman, and we have a true gift in the gel, in the Renew 28 gel, because you can get an experience that quick, and we see it all the time. I know all 3 of you have. But the thing I want you to also understand is, and Carmen, you brought it up with Tyler and our founder, Vertus, and I will challenge anybody to go watch that 16-minute video on amazingmolecules.com, the Genesis video. But we're not network marketing. We've retooled it, right, to next level marketing. I challenge you to look into this. If you're a past business person, entrepreneurially minded, you've done networking in the past, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater if you had a bad experience. Go ask for the person that invited you to the call. And what Carmen said, I agree. Watch what Tyler, our founder, says about the ethos of this company. And our new motto is what? We power potential. That's huge. This is not just about regaining our health. It's about regaining your financial dignity. And there's a lot of people that, Carmen, and y'all may not need that. We did. And I'm so thankful that my best friend, and we are going to publish that video, Carmen, that you were on with my best friend, Robert Potter, and how what this material did for him. And I can't even talk about that without starting to tear up. Yeah. Carmen, thank you. It's hard to put into words. Your father is alive because you had the guts to try this.
That's it.
Yeah, you should.
And it's.
I think I had the heart. I had the heart to try it.
But you also had the brains to say, why not? What if?
Yep.
What if?
Yep.
Good golly.
Well,
so guys,
what are you willing to give up to
Right.
not try it? Yep.
Right. It's awesome.
This is awesome. This was a blast. Thank you, Carmen Keith.
Thank you,
You're
Carmen.
welcome.
And if you're in the Tyler area, you better call her up and go see her, because I'll travel up there. I haven't been to the doctor in 6.5 years, but if I ever need one, I'm coming up there.
We'll have an excuse together.
Come on, Jim.
We will.
All right, guys. Thank you. I appreciate it. Love
Bye.
y'all.
Maureen,